Welcome to Insight with Moonshadow, everyone. I'm Moonshadow, an integrative holistic therapist, intuitive shaman, interfaith minister, and evangelist with over 30 years of experience in the healing field in the U.S. as well as internationally. My intention here is to help you connect you to your inner self and the world around you. So with this show, I like to connect you, connect you to around the world, teach you something, learn something from you as well, and share your story, share your experience. So all of that makes a difference. All of it's important. So now today's topic is regarding sacred power places. Now, a lot of people, there are actual physical sacred power places around the world that are connected to ley lines. They are connected, like Stonehenge, for example. They are spiritual power places where people will go to connect in such a way where they want to either heal or ground or center a lot of different reasons. There's even places where within the Christian faith and Catholic faith that people will go, like Lourdes, for example, where they will go and they will bathe or take, water from a fountain for healing. Also in Portugal, they'll have the festival of Santo Cristo, which Santo Cristo is Jesus, Saint Christ. And people go from all over the world of the Catholic persuasion to go to take in all of that sacred energy. Now, what does that have to do with sacred power places? You yourself can also have a sacred power place. You could make your own. You could make a physical interpretation of it, but also in journeying, you could make a place where you feel safe. A place where you go when you meditate, you can go there to bring yourself back to peace and back to center. Now, the reason why this topic came up is because recently I haven't been to my sacred power place in a little while. So I had to go back and take care of things. I need to tidy up. I need to take care of, and even though it may be virtual in the sense of not like this table or my hat, but it's still very real. No different than a memory. Memories feel pretty real, right? Even though they're the past. They could be last week. So a lot of those things, a sacred power place is a place that you could go to. Even in therapy, different techniques, they will have you set up a safe space where you can go to. So amongst therapy, if you feel threatened or if you feel extra vulnerable where you need to kind of regroup, you can go to that safe space. Now, shamanically, this is what a sacred power place is. You can design it any way you want. You can make a physical interpretation of that in the physical realm here and now as well. Mine would be a little different. It would be a little difficult to do, but still you can do some symbolic interpretation of your sacred power place. Now, why would you want a sacred power place? Why would you want to do that? Well, let's just say you're an average person. I personally believe that none of us are really average. We act average, but we're not necessarily average. But say you're an average Joe that, works a typical job and doesn't really do anything or work. He just works and comes home and that's all he does. And that's very much how society is kind of today. We don't really take a whole lot of decent care of ourselves anymore, right? Because of how things are. So now this average Joe comes home and then what does he do? Some people may tinker in their workshop once they get home to defrag or to unload, you know what I mean? Their kind of thoughts and things and their residuals of the day. But if you think about this in the shamanic or the virtual realm, you could do the same thing by sending part of your consciousness to the sacred power place. So now in a previous show, sorry, in a previous show, we were talking about shamanic journeying and how we connected by going through a hole in a tree or in between a few rocks or into a cave. This is very much within the same school of thought. The difference is you are creating your own space where you can go in and out of. So every time I journey shamanically, this is the place that I go to first. This place is set up, if you looked at it, it's very, very unique because it has so many different aspects to it. I've got tapestries in there. It's basically built like a cave, but then there's wooden timbers for a workshop. There are power tools everywhere, crystals. There are things all over the place. Not much different than my own place, to be honest with you. But a lot of that is around this power place. This is also the spot where a lot of times I will connect with my guides and life protectors and totems. My inner council will meet me there as well. So just imagine having like a spiritual boardroom, a meeting place, like an Appear Down Inn or a rabbit room that we have now. It's not much different. Think about the customization of how you would customize this. Like, for example, like Chrissy's got her own workshop. She's a tinkerer herself. She can sew. She handles power tools like a boss. Right? Some people do different things, have different crafts, different hobbies. See, now Jean uses her bedroom. Some people have an altar space where they do meditation and that kind of thing. And Tina knits and crochets. So now it's not just geared to what a favorite place where you like to do things. This is also a place where you can connect. Like with Cindy, it's the beach. And I have to say, you know, the water for me is an incredibly healing. As a matter of fact, I used energized holy water and you know, energized water underwater to heal my eye. So that's cool. And Lance has been painting. Rock on, man. That's good. It's good to have that outlet because that's so important. Ariel, welcome, welcome. And of course, Ariel, our resident mermaid, in the house. So yeah, so my particular power place. I can give you a bit of a description of my particular specific power place, how I built it. There are many different ways to go in. There's like 3 different ways to go in, but that's also probably because I'm part ninja, part pirate, and just, you know, I always like having an in and out kind of scenario, making sure everything is cool. But there's water there. There's a portal there. So if I want to go forward in time, backward in time, if I want to do any of that, there's a portal. There's a realistic view, as far as realistic you can see, where it's like, it looks like rainforests, high above a mountaintop from a cave. But then again, oh, no worries, Kristen. No worries, Chrissy. And that's cool. That is very cool, Gene. But also too, so there's a portal. There's also like a workshop area. There's also a fire. There's a fire pit right in the middle of the room. I have cushions and a comfy spot with blankets and cushions on one side. So I can technically sleep there. Now, this sounds like crazy talk to most. And I agree. If you're mundane, and I mean that with all respect, this sounds like crazy talk. But us being here, welcome, Ursa. Welcome, welcome. But us being here and you guys being here very often to my broadcasts and my shows and listening to my rantings and ravings of my lunatic shamanic visions and such, this is actually a real thing. And thank you, Gene. This is really a real thing. So now, if you looked at my sacred power place, it would look like a time traveler's, I'm going to say paradise, but I'm going to say like time traveler's place where a depository, a place where all the things that they've gathered in their travels, they put there. Different time frames, weaponry, power tools, crystals, herbs, all of that is in the power place, in that sacred power place. So ultimately, this is the thing. So say, for example, if your child, and this is one of the reasons why a sacred power place is so prominent and paramount here, is that, say, for example, you have a child, and yep, essential oils as well. If you have a child that has nightmares or night terrors, if you help them set a place, a sacred power place, you could call it, their dream room. You can call it whatever you want, but it's still a spot where they are going to feel safe. So if they are dreaming and if they become remotely lucid, all you need to do is have them set up a sacred space, a safe spot for them to go. So if they're having a hard time in a dream or a nightmare, go to your space. Now, Tina is saying that she uses them on my child and herself. That's awesome. Also, too, Dawn Marie is saying, I have a hammock in a meadow beside a forest and a brook. There are a smattering of clouds and a beautiful blue sky and a slight breeze. Angels and my guides come to chat with me there. We have a nice blanket and soft grass where we can chat. Now, this isn't tripping on mushrooms, people. This is real. Well, shamanically real. Right? A lot of people don't realize. No different than if you can't necessarily see it, feel it, touch it. Is it or is it not real? Right? And lavenders and mint is awesome. I was gifted this lovely linen spray of lavender, I think lavender and chamomile, that I use every so often to spray it on my pillow in my bed, because that's also brings me to a calming space. And I was gifted that quite some time ago from Cindy, actually, that's in the room and at work presently. Well, there you go. And now, okay, now look with Ariel, she's saying mine seems to change dependent on my need. Usually it's a white kitchen with white floors, walls, and everything, or it's a foggy forest. I would need something more earthy. Now, this is the great thing about, right, exactly, Marissa. Now, this is the interesting thing about my sacred place. My sacred place looks pretty much the same, but there are different areas in the spot, in the space that have different uses. So, but the space is mainly the same. So now I can go also to that portal, that view. I could look at that view, which is the actual view. That's the normal default per se. Or I could focus on the view changing, and then it turns into a portal where I walk through the portal, and then I can go anywhere. This is usually my main center of where I go before I go into a shamanic journey, if I have the time to do it. Because like no different than when you come home, you set up, you sit down for a minute, before you know it, where'd the time go? I got caught up with a book, or caught up in the kitchen, or caught up with your crafts, or whatever it may be. Well, there you go. See, my kitchen has a door I go through to different places. So that's it. So now with Ariel, it may The physical surroundings of what it looks like may change, but it is her base camp. Now, I also have electronics there. So all of that is really also important too. We'll see. There you go. And Chrissy is saying, my dad is dead, but I often talk to him while working in my workshop. And also too, I will have to say this in regards to you, Chrissy. Your dad is always near you. He's always around you. As a matter of fact, he was also a tinkerer. He loved to figure out how things worked and take things apart and put things back together. So you must have gotten it from your dad. All your, you call it OCD and all that, but you need to be busy. You love to build things and make things work, make things happen. And this is part of where you get it from. I get a little bit from your mom, but I'm getting your dad's mind. Your dad's mind is there. So that is very cool. And you should talk to him. Just because you don't have a body doesn't mean that you don't want conversation. So that's the case as well. But to have a sacred power place, what does it take? What does it take to create a sacred power place? You can do it different ways. You can go ahead and you can go into a guided visualization. You can guide yourself into the visualization or into the space. You could use a drum or a rattle. And you see, you can see some of my power tools right behind me. You got, I got feathers and fans and all that behind me. So you can either meditate that way in a comfortable. Oh, well, I'm glad, and I'm looking to do that again sometime soon, to revise maybe an intermediate drum journeying, shamanic journeying broadcast, because that was just a sampling, and a lot of people got a lot from it. So I will definitely do that. One broadcast may be just the journey itself. It just may be the journey with going in, getting you prepared, maybe even setting up a sacred power place if you guys are interested. I would say if you guys are interested, throw a 1 in the chat to let me know, because if that's the case, I will set something up soon where we can set you up. I can guide you in a shamanic journey so you can set up your own sacred power place. And if you already have one, you could tweak it so you can go back and redecorate a little bit. So that's also doable. And I think that a lot of you, as well as I, would get a lot from it. So cool. That is now in my mental notebook. But see, so this is the thing. So you can create your sacred power place in many different ways. If you have a hard time sleeping, which I know quite a few of us do, if you have a hard time sleeping, since you're awake, you can go ahead and actually go into your mind and start thinking about, what would I want to do? Like, I've actually literally I've literally sketched out my power place. It's okay if you fall asleep, Chrissy. It still works on your subconscious and the physical and your emotional and spiritual. So either way, even if you fall asleep, it's still working with you and working on you. It's just your conscious mind isn't hearing it anymore. So it's still effective. In fact, sometimes it could be more effective because you're not judging or critiquing what's going on. So there you go. It's because your monkey mind might not be working at that point. So you're able to go in full, all in kind of feeling with just taking in the experience, as opposed to going, am I feeling anything? Am I not feeling anything? What's going on? What's happening? Right? So now, different ways of going into your power place or creating a power place. Some questions. Now, think of some questions that, here are some questions that you might want to think about when you're looking at building a sacred space for you. What makes you feel at peace? What elements need to be around you? Like, for example, for me, I like all the elements around me. So I have fire, water, earth, and air around my power place. That's just the balance in me. I want all of the balance there. I want it to be full circle, all of it there. You know? But you need to, it's like you have what brings you peace. And that's really, really, really key here is you need to find what gives you peace, because this space, no different than this space here. Now you look at this little rectangle here that I reside in right now every week. I'm surrounded by items and things that bring me and bring me to ground and center so I can be the best person I can be for you guys. My drum is done. Both of these drums have done countless ceremony and drum circles. That fan I haven't used terribly a lot because I don't usually travel with that. But for the larger ceremonies and circles, I've used that big feather fan. And those and with the rattles, this one has been around the world. Very plain. The other one I got in New Mexico. I have used it, but not as much as the much older one, which is probably, I don't know, 20-something odd years old. Also power tools, crystals, and things like that as well. So like Tina has a fish tank, and now that's another thing. Fish tank. There have been studies that a fish tank calms a person. It relaxes a person. It calms down anxiety. It lowers blood pressure. Now, Tai Chi also does it too. Yoga also does it too. Also, stroking a pet. Having an animal. Also very nurturing and very calming. Okay? And also there have been studies with children with autism and autism spectrum that have been known to be able to calm down enough and focus enough to connect and associate and to socialize, right? So Marissa's saying, oh my God, fish tanks are known to help with trauma, and they are. Also, of course, Ariel and the Chewinis. And I think everyone here so far probably has a pet or has had a pet, more than likely. And if you don't, I strongly challenge you to get one if you can. Yes, and Lance, even if you get fish, I'll tell you, one of my friends does not have any animals, but has a betta, a little betta fish. Easy peasy. They have low maintenance. There's even tanks that you can fill it with water, and then it just clears out. And Ariel had a cow. Why am I not surprised? From a cow to Chewinis. From to nice. Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, if they need a home, I'm sure I'd give it a home. Whether it's a llama, alpaca, skunk, platypus, it's all good. Yes. So all of this really makes a difference. So now how you outfit your power place, your sacred spot, you can do many different things. So think about it, like what puts me at peace? What makes me feel zen? What makes me feel calm? Is it me, is it spending time with children? Is it spending time with animals? Is it whatever it may be? But take that energy and formulate how you'd want to decorate your personal space. So in decorating your personal space, now a lot of you have children and have had children and are raising children or have families. So there's a time where you need self-care. You need to, mom or dad needs to have their time alone for a little bit, just to tinker on something or read a book or something. Utilize that energy and figure out how you'd want to outfit your sacred space. Because when you do that, you will almost, after a little while of working with going there, And your bathtub can count as a sacred space. Anything that you go into in a mindful state can be a sacred space, in the physical as well as going into the shamanic or the metaphysical. So these are some of the questions. What would I want in my space? What colors would I want in my space? How would I want the space to be built? What elements would be more prominent? Who would be allowed in? That's another thing. There haven't been too many people allowed into my space. That's another thing. That is private, powerful, and sacred to you. Nothing, no one will get into that space or invade that space, especially because part of the reasons for getting a sacred space set up is you're doing a ceremony to make sure that it is solid, to make sure that it is a fortress of solitude, like in Superman's case, you know, that kind of thing. A decoder ring, whatever it may be, password. Like a lot of my counsel, a lot of my life protectors, spirit guides, totems, they will meet me there. It's a whole different thing. They're allowed there. They've been with me a long time. And I've actually taken a few people to my sacred space to provide intense healing work, in doing shamanic work with them. And that was really, really cool. Hey, Evangelist. Now, raccoons are very cool. Raccoons are very human-like, actually. They actually wash their hands before they eat stuff. They're very, very cool. And Christie's cave is on the top of a hill and no one can find it. Now, this is the funny thing. This is the cool thing about having a sacred space. You can actually, again, also going into your sacred space, you can grow big or small, kind of like Alice in Wonderland. It could be a small knot in a tree. No one has to know it's there. But it's a place where if you feel anxious, if you feel upset, if you feel out of sorts, if you feel imbalanced or unbalanced, you could set up the sacred space to go there. And when you go there, it's like automatically you find your sense of peace is going to just come over you. Almost like, you know, when you're about to take a nap and you're just kind of you're falling asleep, not hard, but nice and in like in a lucid, dreamy kind of way. And you have the perfect blanket over you. You're not too warm, you're not too cold. Or it's just the perfect surroundings for a nap. Think about that, the same kind of energy. And you want to invoke that same type of environment and energy in it. And you want to be perfectly comfortable, perfectly comfy in this space. Because this space is designed and set up just for you. Now, like Chrissy's saying, I have a waterfall next to my fireplace in my grotto, and the sun shines and lights up crystals. Say, well, wait a minute, you must be a neighbor next to mine, because that's very similar to mine. Because there is a running water feature, I guess, but it's a natural water feature coming down from one of the walls. And it goes into a small pool where I can go in and out of. So yeah, get off my hill. But having a sacred power place could make or break your day. It can make or break or change how you feel. It's not crazy. You're not crazy for thinking that. Like if you think of that movie Bad Boys with Will Smith and Martin, you know what I'm talking about. Martin Lawrence, that's right. Thank you very much, Lance. So if you look at Martin Lawrence and Martin Lawrence, his character, he's really amped up and he's got issues, right? He's a little too wrapped too tight. So what happens? He does oosa, right? He does oosa. Now, as silly as that may seem, if that's a trigger for you to calm down, so be it. No judgment from me. But this is this part of it. So you want to imbue this sacred space with peace and an energy that's conducive for you to feel comforted, loved, and warm, invited, all of that. That's the place where you can go to become whole again, to recharge your batteries. Now, Evangelist is saying, I think only sacred space is in our mind only, and we have the key, and that key is high self vibration. That's right. And you can also invite other people in, or their higher selves, into your sacred space if you feel that it is okay. So that's a big part of it as well. So let's take a look at this. So now you know some of the aspects of how to empower your sacred space. Okay? You know what kind of feeling, what kind of energy you want in your sacred space. You know the sacred space can work with people with PTSD, high anxiety. As Ariel is saying, sacred space are great ways to help with panic attacks. I had an ex that thunderstorms were horrible, and she didn't like driving at night and thunderstorms. So if she was literally driving, it was late, it was at night, and there was a thunderstorm, my phone would be blowing up. And I would literally have to be on the phone with her and decelerate her on the phone and empower her so she was able to get home and not accelerate her panic to the point of having a meltdown. Every single major storm that happened. Now, towards the end, of course, you know, we're no longer together, but towards the end of working with her with that, she did have more of a command of her own stuff, where it wasn't so much a need. If she found it, she found her own sacred space to be able to do that. And Jean also has anxiety as well. And just my glasses. Yeah, you know what? I need to get new glasses. But thank you. I do that often. That's why I hate these glasses. Just saying. However, but in sharing the energy and being able to work with your personal energy to make a safe, sacred space where you could go, you will be able to really see and feel what it's like to have actual homeostasis and to still and to be off. Now, also too, making a physical representation, as I said earlier in the broadcast, making a physical representation of that space is also important. I have a couple of stones that I have that remind me of that space. I have a few things that I physically have that are attuned to the same energy of that space. So that way, I'm literally around it. I've got a quartz cluster, a quartz crystal cluster, that is a generator in this realm that is very similar to the shamanic version that's in my space, my sacred space. And they're also very connected. So now, and also in doing shamanic healing work, a lot of times you're working with someone in such a way where you're bringing otherworldly things, other parts into this realm. That's when you do soul retrieval, and you do that kind of thing as well. So you can actually take a physical thing and bring it back. So that's pretty cool. Now, I've been saying here, I think we are only acting on high self vibration when we give and receive true love and seeing happy lives humans plants, etc. Exactly. But see, the thing is, if we don't visit that emotion, if we don't visit that space, if we don't visit that moment often enough, we lose it. We lose the plot. We get out of sorts. We have arguments. We don't communicate well with our significant others. We lash out at people we love. So if you don't find that balance, this is why I wanted to bring up this topic this week, because ultimately, in the way the world is today, there's something in the water, there's something in the air, where it could disrupt our Zen really quickly. And since our Zen can be disrupted so easily, we have to be even more mindful to make it a regular practice for us to find a place, a space in our mind, in our lives, in the physical realm, in our emotional state, to find balance. Because we don't always find balance. You know? So to find that balance is so, so important. And if you don't find that balance, you slowly but surely start to lose grip, lose that connection. And then you find yourself more high strung, you find yourself more anxious, you may be prone to panic attacks, you can be prone to nightmares, night terrors, you can be prone to a lot of different things. So, what's the moral to this story? What's the purpose of having a sacred space? It could be the space that really makes a difference to keep you in your center. It could keep you whole. It can keep you empowered. It could recharge your batteries. All of this makes a difference. All of this matters. So now, how many of you actually have a space or have worked with this type of practice of making a metaphysical space or physical / metaphysical space to ground yourselves? And throw a 1 in the chat just so I can see you guys. And throw a 2 if you don't have one, but now you're thinking of making one. So 1 if you have one, 2 if you don't, but you're really thinking about making it. Chrissy. I will not repeat that. And I'm glad that the chat doesn't show up. Just saying. But anyway. So yeah. So this is the thing. So if you're working on that, if you're working on, again, and this is why I'm a Chi evangelist. This is why I'm a Chi evangelist. Chi is so important. Your life force is so important. So if you look at it, you need to take care of your mind. You need to take care of your body. You need to take charge and take care of your spirit. All those things matter. Because if you lose one or the other, it's not going to be good. So either way, you need to find that balance. It's a delicate balance. So all those things make a difference. All those things matter. I can tell you, with anything that's bothering to you, any weakness that you have, there's going to be a little weakness in each one of those, because they overlap. So if it's physical, you're going to feel bad about it. If it's mental, you're going to maybe not be as functioning. So all of it coincides with each other. All of it is a very delicate balance between one and the other. Okay, Tina didn't hear what I said about having a space. Okay, so now Tina does have a space because she had mentioned earlier. But in looking at that, so if you don't have a space, I would invite you to create one. Paint it. If you paint, paint one. If you sculpt, sculpt one. Do a diorama. Take pictures. Make a vision board of images that you'd want in your sacred space. This way, it's just going to bring us, well, see, there you go. It brings the physicality, it brings a physicality to your sacred space. And what happens is it connects you to that feeling and that sense of peace. And when you find that sense of peace, when you look at that painting, then you find it. One of the things that gives me sense of peace is something that's kind of very ambiguous. I love sunrises and sunsets. They're kind of interesting because you don't know unless you look at your clock. You don't know if it's sunrise or if it's sunset. It's kind of like aloha in Hawaii. Aloha means hello and goodbye. So it's very, very interesting how one image or one word can mean multiple things. So that being said, what brings you to that center? Incorporate that into your space. Incorporate that into your space. Because if you find yourself in an imbalanced or unbalanced state, you can go ahead and go, okay, you know what? You could, and it's great. What's great about this is once you have attuned yourself to your sacred power place, to that place that you call home, that you want to do work in, you want to do your shamanic work, or if you're not shamanic, if you do spiritual work, metaphysical work, it doesn't matter. Just to zen out, just to get back to center. You could literally do that at an intersection. You could do that at a red light. And trust me when I tell you, I incorporate everything that I share with you, I incorporate in my life, in the real, in the now. So connecting to that energy, you could do that at a stop sign. You're feeling, kind of like amped up. What happens? You just visualize that spot, take a deep breath, and guess what? You've just imbued yourself, surrounded yourself with that energy for a split second. Continue with your day. No different than that ooze Martin Lawrence did in Bad Boys, right? And Gene's saying, I'm out of balance and just finding out empathy. Right. And this is also important. Once you find that balance, once you find a space where you feel comfortable in. Yeah, right. Well, it's true. USA, whatever it is. Like for example, Hakuna Matata. Love that song. Yes, it's a Disney song. But you know what? It works. How powerful is Hakuna Matata? I challenge you all to listen to Hakuna Matata or Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy. And I challenge you to still be pissed off after you hear the song. It's going to change you. However silly that is, it's going to change you. Even a little bit. It's going to alter your mentality. It may not go from, you may go from 0 to 60 to being anxious. It may not go from 60 back to 0, but I can tell you, you're going to be down to 50 or 45 or 30 or whatever. It will. It will lower your blood pressure. It will give you a little more zen, a little more sanity for that moment. So this is what I'm saying. Just like in a previous broadcast, words have power. And so does having a sacred space. So does having a mental state where you can go to. And that's a big key here. This is a big nugget. This is a big moonsight here, is to be able to connect to that moment so you could tap into that moment whenever you need it at will. Now, Chrissy's saying, we used to say you don't have to be crazy to be in our family, but it sure helps. And I have to concur with that. I concur with that mindset, because you know what? Sometimes family can be a little, a little nutty. But see, this is the whole thing. This is the whole thing. If you get to that point where you recalibrate and you find your center, now whether that center is a sacred power space, as we're talking today, our topic in this show today, or if it's finding a moment, finding a visual, finding like a worry stone, those worry stones that have like an indent where you can put your finger in. I will find those on the beach where they don't have like a big indent, but they feel comfortable on your hands. You can carry that to ground. There's so many different methods and ways. Or silkies. Ariel uses silky. And that brings her back. There's a physical representation of her calm state. And Tina's like, silky? Now, Ariel, if you'd like to share what a silky is, feel free. But it's a way to stim or to stimulate that grounded Zen space. And that's how Ariel does it. So then there's also connected with angels and your guides and your totems as well. But you can find that space, that centerpiece, and utilize that at will. And it takes a little practice, but once you do that, actually be very helpful. Very, very helpful to you. And also, too, a lot of people within the autism spectrum, a lot of it is sensory. That's why you'll have a lot of like children or adults that have sensory issues. They'll have like weighted blankets and things like that. Even animals have that thunder vest or thunder jacket where it's like a compression, where it's like a hug. That's why even then, a lot of times a hug can calm someone down. So in that same way, the topic today is about a sacred place where you can go to metaphysically. You can go in your mind. You can have physical representations of such a place. But also, too, all of this, however you use, whatever technique you use, is all about finding the center in who you are and being able to call to it or call for it at will to bring you back to space, bring you back to that space, that spot, that emotion where you can cope, you can work through things, you won't be uprooted or disrupted or anything like that. It's well worth trying. And this may not be for everyone. Take it. Whatever in any of my shows or broadcasts, anything that I share with you, all I ask is for you to consider. Let it bounce around your brain a little bit. Because there may be a nugget for you to really apply, from theoretical to applicable. You might be able to apply something to your life, to your spirit, mind, body, whatever. So you are able to go, wow, you know what? I never thought of it that way. So it's something that you could do. So all I say is just consider. Hey, Yvonda. Consider what it would be like for you to have that space, that space where it's all yours. No one can interrupt you. No one can disrupt you. You go there specifically to be at one with yourself. That's it. And Vonda, it pretty much is that, except she's miniaturized it down to a silky. It's not about the size, it's about the power. It's about the juju in that little silky, isn't it, Ariel? And it is more convenient. She could be at the DMV. She could be at the grocery store. She could be in her car. She's applying it. It's a power tool. So in essence, Ariel has that silky is a power tool for Ariel to be able to zen and center who she is, just like a worry stone. So I invite you to go ahead and take a look at this. Look at this insanity and these rantings of this shamanic potential lunatic. Someone that lives in between realms, beyond the veil and in the physical. Consider what you've heard here and what other people have shared here in the room. Think about it. Because these things, if it's going to help you be a better person, be more grounded and centered, feel more at ease, being able to call that power at will, your own inner strength, your own inner power at will, whether it be having a sacred power place or having a representation, the energy of that sacred power place imbued in an actual physical object. All of that. Like, for example, like I have a blanket that is around here somewhere, but on one side it's like that sheep, like that sheepskin kind of feeling. It's really soft. And then the opposite side is like a suede, and it's also very, very interesting. It's very, very nice feeling as well. It's only a throw, but I'll tell you that throw, when it's like fall or winter, when it's just you're on the couch or you're at a fire, you're camping, whatever it may be, that sometimes that is one of the physical representations of my sacred space. And it brings me back to that same energy. And then I connect with that energy. And I'm like, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And that is another thing as well. This is the great thing about having that sacred space, is that you can have whatever you want there, and you can minimize an object with that energy, like what Ariel does with her silky. And I know quite a few people that have dealt with a lot of adversity, and have dealt with a lot of anxiety, and have dealt with a lot of internal struggles and tough childhoods and everything. I'm no different. I've had my own adversities as well. But for you to take and find and empower yourself the best way you can to get to that point, that balance point, where you can go and you could just instantly, and it takes practice, honestly, but once you do it, once you get there, it is so powerful. It is so powerful. So consider this. Consider this in incorporating this into your life, applying this into your life, because we all need space. We all need to feel at one with ourselves and our surroundings. And why not actually make a small space? Now, if you can make a physical space in your house or in your apartment or your castle or your cave, whichever way you live, if you can make a physical space as well as a sacred space, that's even better. But I can guarantee you this: you are going to feel better. Your mindset is going to change. Your emotional state is going to change. if you utilize these techniques. You know, it's going to make things different. It's going to make things better. And you're going to find yourself being a better person to yourself and others. So yeah, so I would say that would be the way to go, Tina. And you don't have to like outfit it in such a way where it's, you know, it's not a usable room or something like that. Yeah, it's Quincy. But you can have different places. Like here, I have a weeping Buddha. I have got Siberian quartz here. I can see it with an eye shot. I've got a Native American flute. You know, I've got a amethyst cluster. It could be as simple as an end table. That's right. It could be as simple as a little altar. And guess what? The great thing about this is the altar is non-denominational. You could be a Christian and have an altar because you can go to church and there's an altar. You could be a Wiccan and have an altar. You could be I'm a pantheist Buddhist, right? So you can have an altar there too. All it is a sacred spot where you could reconnect and reground. So you can make that little space, that little corner, that little cubby, that little nook, that little reading area that you like to go and curl up with a good book. You can make that space a sacred space, a sacred power space, and have that remote connect to all the energy of a workshop or a metaphysical space that you can create in your mind within dimensions. And this space will exist and does exist. So hopefully, and then closing up, we're going to have to close this up shortly because I think I'm over an hour at this point. But ultimately, utilizing a lot of mind, body, and spiritual ways to bring yourself back to center is so key and so important. So just because we can't see it, feel it, or touch it does not mean it does not exist. No different than if a tree falls in the forest near my house. Am I going to hear it or not? Well, it's still going to make a sound. So it's the same thing. And thank you very much, Chrissy, for keeping track of the time for me. So I'm going to close it up so that way it'll be about an hour. But yeah, and that's ADHD for you. That's the good part of ADHD, by the way. So yes. Now, in looking at that, and numerology, that could be another topic because numerology is like slamming crazy. Awesome. Okay, well, I have someone that wants to be a guest. We're going to have, before we close it up, we're going to have Evan come in. All right, Evan. Welcome. And Evangelos, a regular audience member here in the broadcast. Let's see when you can come in, and then we'll close up the broadcast after that. Okay, we're getting a countdown. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, waiting for user to join. Oh, okay. Maybe that was a glitch. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe that was just fun. Okay. But thanks for trying anyway. I'm going to close it up, and then if you want to come back in, Evangelos, you're perfectly welcome to. We can try inviting you back again so you can pop on cam and share. So ultimately, a sacred power place is not some place that is just in your mind's eye. It can be connected to the real, to the physical, here and now. You can go back in time. You can go forward in time. You could just zen out. You can ground from a panic attack. If you want to kill your mate or kill your kids, you can go to your sacred power place and not commit a murder for your children. And I would never condone murdering your children or your significant other in any way, shape, or form. They love you, and you shouldn't kill them. Just saying. But in closing, thinking about having a sacred power place may actually make a lot of changes to your mind, body, and your spirit, and how you cope and how you deal with life and how you deal with things. So I would totally invite you and challenge you to try it. Consider it. Because you know what? It may be the one thing that gets you going on your new path, on a new adventure that's going to bring you to an even more grounded and powerful self. So I would suggest you giving it a shot. And you can always let me know how it worked, what you thought, because it'll definitely be an adventure. Now, in closing, I want to thank all of you so much for coming to spend time with me here on Insight with Moonshadow. It's all of you that inspire me to do this work and to have this show every week. So me committing the time and the essence and the energy and the soul and spirit for me to put out these topics every week, it's because of you. Welcome, Michael. It's all because of you, because it's not about me just sharing to myself, for myself. It's all about us sharing our story, sharing our adventures, sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it. And because of that, that's why I do it. And now this is like I think this is the 32nd episode. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for you guys to be here. Follow me to different platforms and just being here and showing your love and your juju and your support. And it means a ton. It really means a lot to me. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, guys. So as I say every week, be strong, be amazing, be you. And thank you for being here this week. The after show, once the broadcast is over, we will decide where the after show is going to be. But thank you so much, and see you soon.